Title: Whispers from the Dark. Julia had always been haunted by the old family stories, particularly those whispered in low tones around evening fires, just as the sun's last light slipped away, leaving shadows that crept and curled like smoke. She was the youngest in her family, the one with bright eyes that sparkled with curiosity, but even her youthful spirit could not quell the dread wrapped tightly around her lineage. The tales of her great-grandmother, Doña Luz, began circulating when Julia turned 12. It was during an unusually cold winter in Jalisco, Mexico, where the nights seemed more oppressive than ever. That was when her grandmother, drinking her usual cup of dark coffee, leaned in and whispered words that would reshape Julia's understanding of her family forever. Doña Luz was a witch, her grandmother said, her voice quivering slightly as if the very mention of the name conjured its own specter. She could bend the will of nature, talk to the dead. It was both a gift and a curse. As her grandmother recounted the haunting tales, a chill washed over Julia, but she could not help but feel intrigued. The gift of manipulation, of knowing secrets that lived beyond the grave, seemed both alluring and terrifying, a conundrum she deeply wanted to understand. Over the years, the stories evolved into an integral part of her identity. Julia would often stay up late into the night, clinging to her grandmother's every word, feeding off the thrill of the narrative, but never losing sight of the underlying fear. One story in particular stuck with her, the tale of the mirror, a cursed reflection that showed not just one's visage but the true essence of a person's soul. That mirror, her grandmother had said, was the last thing Doña Luz looked into before her end. It held the souls she had captured, a reflection of her darkness. When Julia stumbled upon her great-grandmother's old trunk while cleaning the attic one summer afternoon, she felt an unexplainable pull. Dust-hazed and seemingly untouched by time, the trunk bore the weight of secrets long buried. As she pried it open, the air thickened with a musty scent, rich in memory and decay. Inside lay an array of items, herbs carefully tied with brittle twine, pages of leather-bound journals filled with frantic scrawls, and, most intriguingly, a tarnished mirror. In that moment, the room fell silent. Julia gazed into the dark surface of the mirror. It was unlike any she had seen before. Its frame was decorated with elegant carvings of twisted vines, almost alive, creeping toward her like fingers beckoning her closer. She hesitated, her heart racing, but the weight of her curiosity urged her on. "What secrets do you hide?" she whispered, her breath fogging the glass, distorting her reflection. For nights after that, Julia found herself increasingly consumed by the items from the trunk, poring over her great-grandmother's journals. Words of spells, potions, and incantations danced under her eager fingertips. Intrigued, she decided to test a harmless spell she found tucked away in the pages, a charm to call upon spirits for guidance. That night, surrounded by the flickering flames of candles, Julia set her intentions clear. The air hummed with energy as she spoke the incantation softly. The minute the last syllable escaped her lips, the temperature in the room plummeted, the shadows on the wall flickered, and the mirror seemed to pulse, revealing an iridescent glow. "I seek knowledge, I seek you," she murmured into the void that hung above the table. But nothing could have prepared her for what followed. A specter emerged from the glass, a figure shrouded in shadows, its face obscured. The presence was chilling, an unsettling force that resonated through Julia's very core. She recoiled instinctively but found her body unable to move. "Do you wish to know the secrets of your lineage, child?" The voice echoed, layered with whispers that swirled like a tempest. Unlike her great-grandmother, Julia was offered no power, no benevolent gifts. Instead, the spirit revealed a history marred with curses, dark rituals that spread like an infection through her bloodline, awakening a force she had unwittingly summoned. The nights that followed were a torment. Julia awakened often to strange noises, soft sighs that curled in the corners of her room, chilling laughter echoing through the house at odd hours, shadows that didn't seem to belong to anything corporeal. Each night grew worse, the hauntings transforming from vague sensations to physical manifestations. Whispers filled her ears, sometimes a soft cooing, sometimes a malevolent hiss. Julia staggered through her days, exhaustion weighing down her limbs while fear wrapped tighter around her heart. Her family noticed her shift, her grandmother with her concerned glances and her parents with their inquisitive frowns. When Julia finally confronted her grandmother about the hauntings, she broke down, recounting her nocturnal disturbances. The old woman's face drained of color, and she grasped Julia's hands tightly. You have awakened something that slumbers deep, you must undo it, she gasped, the fear palpable in her breath. The mirror, it holds a curse of our family. Doña Luz's dark gifts turned into torment, a cycle that you have reignited. In desperation, blood pounded in her ears as Julia delved once more into Doña Luz's faded journals. She discovered a counterspell, one that required confronting the entity that had emerged. On the night of the new moon, Julia prepared herself, shoving her fears aside as she stood before the mirror, trembling with anticipation. Come forth, she commanded, and the air crackled with dread. The spirit, the embodiment of her great-grandmother's darkest secrets, coiled out, a wretched visage of shadow and fury. You wish to quell me. Foolish girl. It screeched, face twisting, revealing flashes of torment intertwined with ravenous hunger. Julia felt her heart race. You will not possess my family any longer. I break your hold, she shouted, trembling breath clouding the mirror. With every ounce of will she possessed, she spoke the incantation, weaving words together like the thick strands of fate. The spirit writhed, its form flickering like a candle's flame, and the gnarled vines of the mirror twisted dangerously around her. But Julia persisted, fueled by a fierce determination to protect her family from the curse laid upon them. Finally, light surged forth, filling the room, enveloping the spirit in a blinding glow. With a deafening shriek, it was drawn back into the mirror, the darkness fading before her eyes, leaving only the emptiness of silence in its wake. Julia collapsed to the ground, trembling but victorious. The air around her vibrated with energy as the oppressive gloom that had long lingered began to lift. Her family gathered in the doorway, their faces a mixture of confusion and relief. She had seen the darkness, felt its chilling embrace, but in this moment, she knew she had severed the chain that bound them to the malevolence of Doña Luz. They were no longer prisoners of a past lived in fear. As the first rays of dawn broke through her window, Julia gazed into the now quiet mirror, its surface shimmering softly like a clear pond. Though she could still sense remnants of her great-grandmother within, she felt a weight lift. A legacy once filled with dread could finally begin anew, just as the sun rose each day, promising warmth and light amidst the shadows. In that small room in Jalisco, the darkness had not been vanquished entirely, but it had been confined, stripped of its power. Julia knew well that anyone could be haunted by the past, but with courage they could rewrite their future.